who is Lord David Dirry-Moir. Welcome back to my series where I'm breaking down the characters from The Man Who Laughs by Victor Hugo. In my video on Lord Clancharlie, I mentioned how Lord Clancharlie had a girlfriend and together they had a son out of wedlock named David, and that David is Lord David Dirry-Moir. After Lord David's mother leaves Lord Clancharlie to become mistress to King Charles II, David is raised as a page in the court of the Stuart monarchy, and he grows up viewing his father as a traitor, a fool, but is basically like, whatever, so dad went off to Switzerland. Worked out for me because mom took care of me and I grew up in a comfy lifestyle and I inherited estates from her after she died. It's all good. And King James II came to Lord David when Lord David was in his 20s, and he says to him, "Listen, David, I know that you are an illegitimate child of your father, and I just had a daughter with one of my mistresses. If you marry that daughter once she's of age, I will make you the legitimate heir to your father's estates, and you will inherit the Clancharlie estates." And Lord David's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that once she's old enough." So, cut to 20 years later, Lord David is now in his 40s, and that daughter of King James is now in her 20s, 23, and that daughter, of course, is Duchess Josiana. And Lord David and Josiana, they are kind to each other. They have known all their lives that they're going to end up together, so they're polite, they flirt, but they're not really in love. That's one of the things that Josiana wishes. She says to Gwynplaine, "I'm engaged, I'm going to marry Lord David, but I would much rather be in love with him." So that's kind of a little window into the relationship between Josiana and Lord David. They're kind to each other, they might even have some sort of attraction for each other, but ultimately their relationship was arranged and they act as such. And Lord David, he, like a typical rich guy in his 40s, is living his life as if he's still young, hot 20-something. Particularly, Lord David loves to go out slumming. He goes to the fairgrounds and has a great old time and dresses as a sailor called Tom, Jim, Jack. And he is the first one to discover Gwynplaine, Ursus, and Dea, their performance, and he becomes a big fan. He attends regularly, and our trio is like, who is this guy? He's a sailor, and yet he's able to give us big handfuls of coins, an amount that wouldn't be in a sailor's salary. He defends us when we have hecklers in the crowds. He settles things with his fists, and yet don't know that much about him except he's able to follow us from fairground to fairground. So who is this guy? Why is he such a big fan? I mean, thanks, but who is he? And it isn't until later in the book when Gwynplaine's heritage is revealed that he realizes that he and Lord David are half-brothers. And Lord David at first is kind to Gwynplaine, and Gwynplaine is surprised at this. He's like, "You're not mad that I'm taking our father's estates from you now that I've been revealed to be our father's legitimate heir?" And Lord David's like, "Oh man, it's all good. I have estates from my mom. It's fine. You're getting what is justly due to you. Come on in. Welcome to the family." But once Gwynplaine accidentally insults Lord David's mother, then Lord David's like, "Oh hell no, nobody talks shit about my mom. We're gonna have a sword fight." And Gwynplaine, he's like, "That's my cue to get the heck out of town." So he renounces his titles and then tries to go back to Ursus and Dea. But that's Lord David. He is your typical in his 40s rich guy, playboy. He loves to have a good time. He would much rather be out in the fairgrounds hanging out with the people than being an aristocrat. And yet he also has his duties as an aristocrat, and he is a legitimate force within the court. He serves in the Navy. He is not the fop that so many adaptations make him out to be. But that's Lord David. What do you think of him?